Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, this episode almost didn't happen because... I'm not gonna go too in depth with it because you don't even know me on that level, but like, let's just say things happened in this week that just kind of made me like go, I don't really want to do like anything like ever. But I just decided, doing the podcast and stuff is a good thing to relieve or something. I don't know. I basically wasn't in a good mood. Now I'm just like, this will probably lift up my spirits or whatever. Plus, we still need to get to episode 100, so let's just keep on trucking then. With all that out of the way, let's get right into the news. The first thing is just strange. Okay, so I didn't know that this happened, but like apparently like a couple days ago, this girl, Naomi Siped, just popped out of nowhere and is now like the Anti-Greta Thunberg. Conservatives love her because, Greta is a 17-year-old girl who's talking about how climate change is going to ruin her future, but Naomi's like, no, it's not, because it's not real. Am I right? And, of course, big oil and big, companies like that, they're going to love that. So, now the thing is, I don't entirely get, why these guys are trying to pin her as the anti-Greta, because Greta's 17, i.e. still a kid, but Naomi is 19. For those who don't get it, me and the progressive voice are the same age as her. Now, granted, I'm not gonna be 19 for that long anymore, but Naomi is just, I don't get it. They're just trying to make Naomi, pretty much they're trying to get everybody who is that's the thing. Conservatism, it was a huge white male Christian dominated field, and now they need to get people who aren't white male conservatives anymore. They need black people, they need black women, they need Asians, they need gay people, they need trans people, and they need Jewish people. They need all these people of different groups and stuff to represent the conservative ideology, because conservatism is, dying in a sense. Nobody wants to be conservative anymore. At least not kind of. The pendulum is definitely shifted to the left. But anyways, what is Naomi in the news for? Not existing. But here's the thing. As soon as she existed, as soon as she got into prominence, they immediately pulled up a video where they found out that she was having a debate about an attack on a synagogue, and Site said that Jews were on the top of the list of oppressed groups, and ordinary Germans were at the bottom. Now, that doesn't sound too kosher to me. Literally saying, no, Germans, normal Germans, are not as seen as important as Jewish people. It's where have I heard this talk before? This isn't sounding so good. But, she's catching flack for that, obviously. Because it's she, apparently the criteria was put in, it was a serious political debate. It wasn't a offhand joke that you would make to your friends. That'd be a different story. But it's literally just her, doing a serious political debate. it's like, of course Jews are on the top of the oppressed groups list. They've been like the most oppressed group in the history of the world, pretty much. Like, look at literally every time that there was like a regime or anything, like a regime, anarchy, like whatever, Jewish people are the first to go. Like, they're usually the first to be ostracized, the first to be dealt with. But yeah, like, of course they're an oppressed group. But yeah, I led with that story because that story is, like, nothing. Here's another story that's kind of nothing, but also not nothing. There are fewer registered Republicans than independents for the first time ever. There are now more registered independents than Republicans, making a first for the U.S. According to data from Ballot Access News, independents make up 29.09% of the registered voters, while Republicans make up 28.87% and Democrats make up 39.66%. The data comes from 31 states that require registration by party. And I assume that when you add, like, Libertarian Party, Green Party, American Solidarity, or whatever, the number will grow. But you get the point. Currently now, in voter registrations, it's Democrat, unaffiliated Republican. Now, the thing is, that isn't really that surprising, because this is kind of a trend that has been going on, sort of, for a while. Like, in a lot of states, it'll usually be Democrat, Independent, Republican, but it's never really been statewide. Like, for example, in North Carolina, it's the same thing. There are more independents than there are registered Republicans. Again, kind of keeping with the whole trend of the pendulum swinging back in, like, the 80s and stuff. We like, not even just the 80s, like, even now, we still consider Republicans are, like, the older people that see it as, like, oh, it's our civic duty to go vote. We're the ones who need to go vote. Whereas, like, you know, Democrats or lefties are like, oh, we don't need to register, like, all the time. We don't need to be, like, now we're kind of seeing it go in the opposite direction. Especially now, like, we see it with lefty Twitter all the time, even though lefties are supposed to be seen as, like, oh, they're lazy, or they're, like, pot-smoking hippies, or whatever the old adage was. They're, like, seen as, you know, they're of course connected to their ideas, but it's not necessarily going to translate to, like, oh, it's our civic duty to go vote. Like, but now we're seeing it as, like, they do see it that way. Like, voting is important. I mean, except for the ones that don't see it that way. But I mean, this is just the kind of like a growing trend, obviously. And I mean, considering I want the two-party system to just go away, I mean, I'm not mad at the idea of it. In fact, in some states, Alaska being the only one that comes to mind, there are more registered independents than there are people registered with any political party. In Alaska, they have to run independents in the Democratic primary because otherwise, independents wouldn't really have a voice at all. So yeah, anyways, the next story is more important. Remember Bolivia? Yeah. Turns out, like, remember the whole Bolivian coup where everyone was saying, like, oh, they were rigging the elections in favor of the socialists in charge. And then we're like, well, I mean, there's no evidence for that. But then people are like, no, there's truly proof. The OAS showed it. Turns out, yeah, I was 100% completely right. There was literally no proof of election rigging in favor of Morales. Like, seriously. The Washington Post showed, like even though they already had, and they're already going to hold a new election, it turns out, like, they literally showed no evidence of electoral fraud. And I mean, it was completely obvious from the get-go, and it was clearly just a smear tactic. I mean, Morales literally on the day of the election when he said, like, after the results were called, and then, you know, the opposition was saying, you rigged it, you rigged it, you rigged it. He was saying, look, I'll show you I didn't rig it. Other countries, come to my nation, investigate my elections. Come on, dude. Do it. But then, when they kept pressuring him, he's like, okay, fine, I'll hold a new election that will be explicitly covered by another nation, and they'll monitor everything to make sure it's legit. But he still got ousted. Like, and the same thing happened in Venezuela. Venezuela, like, told the people, look, here are the results of our election. You can look into our voting machines. Look into all this stuff. Do it right now. Come on. Because there's just nothing that explicitly shows that they rigged the elections. In fact, they hold elections that are rated fairer than ours. And I mean, Bolivia is fading into it's almost getting to the point where it's like going to be a right-wing fascist government in charge. Like, I should probably do a video on the Bolivian elections and stuff at one point, before May 3rd at least, because that's the day the election is going to be held. But I should make a video, like, just talking about the candidates, because this, like, coup has, like, thrown everything into a loop about Bolivia. Like, Bolivia was pretty left-wing. I mean, their dominant political party is called Movement for Socialism, and another political party that was kind of more seen, like, their biggest opposition was usually, like, Civic Community, which was the, like, it's a social democratic to social liberal party, and right-wing opposition just kind of didn't do much. But now we have, the center-right party is, like, saying, we have not only a center-right party that is instilling their hugely religious values in their pretty secular government. Like, Janine Áñez just going in and being like, I will now put the Holy Bible back where it belongs. Right in our nation's capital. And then there's also, like, a neo-fascistic, like, a fascistic political party that rose out of the, like, thing. We have, like, one of the opposition guys is a literal fascist. And he's just he's a presidential candidate now. It's screwed up. It's screwed up that this is happening. The only candidate that can fix this is Luis Alberto Arce Catacora. Like, he's the only guy that can fix this. He was the VP of not VP. Was he the VP? I don't think he was. He was in the cabinet of Evo Morales. And he's going to be the candidate of Morales' party in the upcoming election. Now, here's the thing. This is kind of funny. Like, Janine Áñez, she's she's been trying to, like, build herself up as a big movement for a while now. Like, I'm going to be the real president of Bolivia. Yet in literally every poll that has been done in this election, Luis is beating her, usually by double digits. Like, I think all the times that he's beaten her, all the times he's been beating her was double digits. This is kind of funny. Does this mean the coup is failing? Kinda, sort of. Maybe. This coup definitely ain't Venezuela. Because the difference between Bolivia and Venezuela is because, like, I mean, and I know this is a stupid way to look at it, but, like, you like, in cartoons, again, this is a stupid way to look at it, but even in cartoons, the consensus about these countries is very different. Like, I mean, what's the consensus about Venezuela in both the political world and in the cartoons? Oh, Venezuela stinks. They think of Venezuela as like a bleak place. I mean, sometimes it does look true. But I mean, all the stuff that I've seen of Bolivia on stuff, Bolivia is seen as like a nice place to live. Beautiful countryside, nice place. But again, it is true. And I mean, the people love Morales. Like, there's video of Morales leaving Bolivia, and his people are literally like shaking his hand and like begging him, like, please don't go, please. Giving him hugs. He's hugging them back, but he's like, he's making it fast because he's like, he's got to get out of here. But they're like, no, please don't go. We need you. Because, they're indigenous people, and Morales gave indigenous people a hand, gave them a say in their government. I will give Morales literally one criticism. I'm going to give him this one criticism that I definitely think may have, if he didn't do it, the coup probably wouldn't have happened. At least not now. Morales probably shouldn't have sought a third term. Because remember, let me explain this again for those who don't know. Morales wanted to seek a third term, so he put a ballot referendum and said, hey, do we want to expand the Constitution so that presidents can seek a third term? But then the majority of Bolivia voted no. Now, there was also accusations that vote was possibly Russian hacking or whatever. Well, it was one of the Russiagate stuff. But, Morales went to the Supreme Court, and when he told them, hey, look, term limits? And they said, yeah, term limits are pretty stupid. So they said, you can seek a third term. I think maybe Morales shouldn't have sought a third term. Maybe a better case scenario would have been he just says his VP to, fill in the spot of, you'll take my place, you'll lead Bolivia to the future. Maybe then, they wouldn't have given them the field of the fire. Anyway, speaking of regime change and coups, Democratic Party is trying to do a coup on its supporters. Here's what happens. Democratic leaders willing to risk party damage to stop Bernie Sanders. Interviews with dozens of Democratic Party officials, including 93 superdelegates, found overwhelming opposition to handling Mr. Sanders the nomination if he fell short of a majority of delegates. So this is what is going on. There has been a lot of speculation and things that, during one of the last debates, they asked the simple question, if whoever has the most delegates at the end of the convention but doesn't have enough to secure the Democratic nomination, should they be the Democratic nominee? Bernie is the only candidate that said yes, meaning that he's the only candidate that would only use superdelegates to give that candidate, pretty much he would only allow the superdelegates to get the guy in front to get enough to win the nomination. They wouldn't, or they'd go to where their state picked or whatever. Basically, they wouldn't be used to skew and screw the one person that they, wanted to, they wouldn't use it to screw anybody out of the nomination. At least that's how Bernie would view it. It's a view he's held ever since 2016, at least, when he was trying to get states that voted for him to have their superdelegates vote for him, because he's like, your states overwhelmingly voted for me, so shouldn't I be the candidate that gets the most delegates in these states? So what is the Democratic Party planning? Well, it turns out 93 superdelegates, and I mean, many of them are being named. Like, these are people who are being named. Like Representative Don Beyer of Virginia and Representative Steve Cohen. Like, these are people who are being named. They were openly saying that they are willing to, like, if Bernie doesn't get enough delegates to win the Democratic nomination, they're perfectly willing to just vote for someone else. And they've even been throwing in a couple of names out there. Mark Warner, Senator from Virginia. Nancy Pelosi. Kamala Harris. Chris Coons. But the one that's been getting the most attention is that they have been proposing a ticket comprised of Sherrod Brown, the senator from Ohio, and Michelle Obama as a compromise ticket of some sort. Or not even a compromise ticket, just a ticket that they will do at the Democratic convention, that they'll vote for them. Now, the thing that has been getting attention is that the reason why Sherrod Brown, that ticket is getting the most attention, is because Sherrod Brown openly stated, like, yeah, I'm 100% on board with doing that. And it's like, Sherrod, you're literally saying, oh yeah, I'll be the nominee if the people vote one way and they just decide to give me the nomination. Like, I don't even get, like, how is this possible? They're literally openly saying, yeah, I'm gonna just flat out give the nomination to someone else. Like, I'm just gonna do it just for shits and giggles. Am I right, boys? Like, it's like, how can you get away with this? You're just openly saying, yeah, I'm gonna give the nomination to someone else that, even if they don't, like, Sherrod Brown isn't even a candidate. He's not a candidate. You're considering literally giving the nomination to someone who is not a candidate. That's something you haven't done since, like, 1952. And that didn't bode well for you. Now, did it? Like, it's stupid. I don't get, like, how can the DNC openly just say, yeah, we're really willing to just rig the nomination for someone else? Like, they won't even rig it for someone else. They'll just pick a guy and just be like, we pick you, not Bernie. It's like, but Bernie got the most votes. Well, he just barely got enough to win. Now, that's why we need to, like, that's why I'm saying Tulsi, Warren, like, GTFO, go away. People who, like, want to vote for Yang, or vote for Williamson, or vote for any of the progressive candidates that are still on the ballot, like, no, stop. You need to vote Bernie, because that is the only way we're going to get to the delegate threshold to win. We need to get to that delegate threshold too. Like, it's good to win the most votes, but we definitely need to get that delegate threshold so that they can't give the nomination to someone else. We can't go to a second ballot, because the second ballot will immediately ruin everything. Like, even Bloomberg is trying to bring that attention to the center people and be like, guys, I just realized, with all of us running, we can't rig it for us. Come on, guys, pick me. Oh yeah, speaking of billionaires and losers, the South Carolina Democratic primary, two things happened. One, and this is the second thing that happened, due to his low performance, Tom Steyer dropped out. Good. Like, I don't get why people are like, oh, Tom Steyer's so cool. I love Tom Steyer. He's so cool. When the class war happens, I'll regret trying to kill him. I don't get it. Like, I seriously don't get it. But anyways, the bigger thing that happened is, of course, the South Carolina primary. It's the last of the early state primaries before Super Tuesday. How did we do? Well, we didn't lose, technically. I mean, when I say technically lose, I mean, like, we weren't Deval Patrick, who got 272 votes. I mean, granted, he wasn't running. Like, he's not running anymore. But yeah, this is one for Biden. Biden has won South Carolina Democratic primary with 48.4 of the vote of 99% reporting. He's getting 29 delegates and Bernie's getting 9. So yeah, Bernie, he's still winning overall. 3 out of 4 of the beginning states ain't so bad. But I mean, yeah, he didn't win this one. And that stinks. But I mean, we gotta live with certain things. The only reason that we were focusing so much on South Carolina was because South Carolina was going to be a big primary state, and, you know, it apparently would have propelled Bernie to be in a position where nobody could really catch up with him. Unless, like, every Super Tuesday state went to, I don't know, Pete. But I mean, it's unlikely. But I mean, it was just kind of, like, that's what people said. And I mean, this one, it was, like, I mean, I was thinking that maybe Bernie could pull it off. But I mean, pretty much everybody, like, Bernie was as well, but, like, Biden and Steyer and, like, even Gabbard, everybody was putting all their attention in this state. So, I mean, and it had mixed results. Of course, Steyer failed and Gabbard did as well. But yeah, it was kind of obvious that South Carolina was going to be a harder nut to crack. Though, I mean, Super Tuesday, from what I've seen, like, statewide polling for, like, Super Tuesday states. Like, and the recent ones have been showing, like, Bernie being at, like, he was ahead of Biden and ahead of, like, Bloomberg and stuff. But, like, I mean, some of them were, like, kind of, like, close to tie-ish, but, like, a decent amount of them were just flat out looking like Bernie's gonna win. In fact, there's one person, like, I don't remember who, but, like, one person pointed out, like, there is a decent scenario, there is a decent chance that on Super Tuesday, that all but Alabama goes to Bernie. That's a possibility, which would be 13 out of the 14 states. Now, to be fair, I don't think it will happen. It's a potential, but, you know, to be fair, that huge of a margin would be kind of a big leap. At the very least, I'd expect, like, I mean, and when I say the very least, I mean, like, again, it's like a huge margin, but, like, let's say, hypothetically, if a scenario like that were to come, it would be more like, you know, 10 for Bernie, 4 for Biden, or, like, 9 for Bernie and 4 for Biden, or whatever. But yeah, personally, I do think that Bernie will probably win Super Tuesday. I mean, I'm not even sure, like, it could be just me being hopeful, but, like, I mean, his frontrunner status is just noticeable, and he just seems to be doing well, especially considering there's one thing people don't really seem to be noticing. Like, Biden has been putting literally all of his eggs in South Carolina. He's been putting all of his eggs in this basket. Doesn't really bode well for people who don't live in South Carolina. especially considering many of these Super Tuesday states have already begun voting. Like I cast my vote a while ago, and I mean, it's big. Like, people are... This is, like, real election time. Election time is really beginning now. This is where things are going to start getting off the feet. So yeah, speaking of off the feet, now here's the smaller candidate of the day. Caliph for President. Mojesh Eshu Muhammad Fabio Luis Eduardo Correa Rodriguez Geraldo Alfaraj Thenzion has openly claimed the title of Caliph of God and has challenged all of the world to contest this claim, leading to the 2012 and this 2020 campaign for president. So basically, he's an insane guy running for president. Like, he's running on a platform of restore constitution, restore freedom, property rights, 10-day plan. What's that? Day 1, declare a state of emergency and use it to force Congress into constitutional convention, nationalize the Federal Reserve, and create a new debt-free currency, faith notes, expand Medicare into universal coverage, and convert all hospitals into non-profit organizations, restore freedom by restoring common law legal system, nationalize the IRS, restore true property rights, expand the EDD, nationalize, reorganize all schools and universities into non-profit organizations, expand all markets with massive deployment programs, and end homelessness. And it's kind of cool. I mean, like, he talks about, like, yeah, I guess he's kind of cool, but, you know, kind of crazy because he's claiming that he's the Caliph of God and all that. So, yeah, he's obviously not going to win. I think he's running as a Democrat, but, I mean, I don't remember. Okay, so now that this is going to be the last podcast of Super Tuesday, I mean, I just figured out what I was going to talk about in this very moment, but I'm going to talk about North Carolina again, but this time it's going to talk about the high-profile Senate seat that is, again, very up for grabs, and this is like before the election comes out, this is going to be my last ditch effort for anybody in North Carolina Senate. Okay, so this seat is, again, a very highly, sought after seat. This is a very, high profile seat because this is one of the biggest seats that could potentially flip. In fact, many people point out that this is one of the most likely Senate seats to flip, ranking it 4th or 5th most likely to flip. So yeah, this of course has some interesting contenders. This is bringing a lot of eyes and ears into the field. People are paying a little extra attention to this race. And I want to be very crystal clear on all of the candidates in this race. Okay, so, of course, we know where I'm going to spend the most time in this video, but let's just look over the candidates. First, we have the Constitution Party candidate, Kevin E. Hayes. He was a candidate for U.S. House of Representatives in 2012 and 2008. He's, if you want to vote for him, you're going to have the ability to vote for him, because since he's the only candidate of his party, he's going to make it to the general election no matter what. In the Libertarian Party, we have Shannon Bray. He ran for North Carolina's 3rd Congressional District in 2019 during the special election. Now, those are the third-party representations. There's Larry Holmquist. He ran for Senate in 2016, and he's just running your stereotypical conservative campaign as a Republican. You know, build the wall, pro-Second Amendment, pro-life, repeal Obamacare, Then there's Paul Wright, who is also doing the exact same thing. Conservative suck Trump's dick. Because The thing is, I'll get to it in a second, but and then there's also Sharon, who is literally doing the same thing again. I'm a conservative. I'm for cutting taxes. I oppose the Green New Deal. Now, the reason why all these conservative people are trying to be even more conservative is because Tom Tillis made a slight criticism of Donald Trump one time. Then all of a sudden, they made a huge stink that maybe, just maybe, he could be primaried. But Trump literally just said, Tillis, here's my endorsement. And Tillis was saved. Tillis is going to win the GOP nomination single-handedly, no doubt. The more interesting election is coming from the Democratic side, where we've been having a bit of an argument, a bit of a tussle. Let me go into the candidates. First, I'm going to start with the candidate with the least notoriety, Steve Swenson. Steve Swenson just seems to be your average run-of-the-mill guy and just decided one day, why not run for Senate? It appears that he was originally planning to run for NC District 2, but he's not anymore. So now he's running for Senate. Well, technically he's not, because I remember I was watching a candidate forum, and they said, and Swenson wasn't invited, and I'm like, why didn't you invite Swenson? And they, said during the beginning, Steve Swenson is also going to be appearing on the ballot, but it turns out, we just received a letter from him saying that he is dropping out of the race. I'm like, aw, man. To be fair, Steve Swenson, he wasn't the best candidate, but he did have, some decent qualities. He was saying he wanted to help sex trafficked victims, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But the next candidate is not so cool. Atul Goel. Atul Goel is pretty much your nothing candidate. He's running as nobody. He is not running on any big policy positions. Literally, he's running on pretty much nothing. We can't support Medicare for all. We can't. I will expand and help your health care. And it's cool, but what is your method to do so? I will expand your health care. I will help fight climate change. Do you have a specific plan for that? Or Atul Goel, he is pretty much nothing. He's added nothing to the campaign, literally. He's worse than one of the candidates that is actually seen as the worst. The next candidate is Mecklenburg County Commissioner Trevor Fuller. Now, Trevor Fuller has a lot of comparisons with the next candidate, Erica Smith, because both of these candidates are trying to run for the same field. Kind of. See, Erica Smith is, I guess the best way to do it is to talk about her opponent. Again, I have to step through a bunch of candidates to get to the final candidate. Cal Cunningham, former state senator and candidate for U.S. Senate in 2010. Cal Cunningham, until the beginning of I don't know when, but it wasn't until a couple months ago that he was running for lieutenant governor. Now he's running for Senate. Again, because this seat is very likely to flip. He is running literally as the DSCC endorsed candidate. And that has picked a bone with me. Because the DSCC is literally waltzing in and pretty much choosing who's going to be the senator. Cal Cunningham, if you go to his Twitter feed, he's campaigning as if he's already won the nomination. Which he kind of has. He has the support of all these prominent Democratic Party officials: Sherrod Brown, Dick Durbin, Eric Holder, Tim Kaine, Chris Murphy, Bob Casey. Like, he's got, like, huge endorsements. Jamie Harrison. Like, I mean, he got this huge amount of support from, like, big top Democrats. And, like, huge, big, like, Charlotte Observer, Dan McCready. He's got the endorsement of the guy who wrote Gravity Falls. Like, this, he's got, like, a lot of things, a lot of support. But again, it's usually from top people, not lower people. Now, of course, they wanted him to run because they want a safe, moderate pick to be the person who's going to run against Tom Tillis, who's just a weak senator. But they did. There was at one point going to be someone who was going to give him a left-wing challenge. State Senator Jeff Jackson. State Senator Jeff Jackson, he's followed by, like, a couple of lefty North Carolina Twitters. He seems like a cool guy. And he went to Washington, D.C. to get the seal of approval of Chuck Schumer before he ran for North Carolina Senate. He said, like, okay, here's my plan. I'm going to do 100 town halls in 100 days. I'm going to campaign, like, my ass off. I'm going to go from county to county to county, riling up support from the people to get them to help me win in the general election. Chuck Schumer said, okay, good plan. Counteroffer, you will spend the entire primary trying to get the money of big donors, and those big donor money will use in general election campaign ads. Is that a good plan? And now he was like, no. And they said, well, sorry, if you're not going to go by this plan, you can't be the Senate candidate. And it's like, excuse me? Don't I, a citizen of North Carolina, get to choose who gets to be my senator? Not New York Chuck Schumer. You have no say over who's my senator. And now Jeff Jackson is endorsing Cal Cunningham because, like, I mean, Jeff Jackson said in an interview, he could have ran against Cal Cunningham. He could have, but it wouldn't work. He's like, he didn't have to go to Chuck Schumer to get his approval, but he knew that if he didn't, he'd lose. Now, this is where Erica and Trevor come in. More particularly, Erica. Erica has been spending this campaign positioning herself as the left-wing alternative to Cal Cunningham. The AOC to his Joe Crowley, if you will. She's been trying to be this huge progressive firebrand, at least in look. And I mean, she's an African-American woman, so, you know, she at least looks the part of, like, a political outsider. But does that necessarily translate to policy? Well, not necessarily. You see, Erica Smith, like, until the early voting process, never supported Medicare for all. Yeah, strike one, you're out. And I mean, I kept adding her on Twitter and, you know, asking her in emails, like, Medicare for all, why aren't you supporting Medicare for all? But she kept saying, like, oh, I support access to affordable healthcare. I'll make healthcare more affordable. And, you know, no thank you. Just no Medicare for all, no deal. There is no ifs, ands, or buts, really, to be honest. There are very few exceptions where I would consider you just, like, if you don't support Medicare for all, there's pretty much no hope. Now, she has been, again, trying to position herself as the progressive, but if you're not going to support Medicare for all, you lose. Your progressive vote goes nowhere. Now, here's the thing. Even now, her healthcare page is now super confusing. Like, here's her healthcare page now. Go to her website, go to her platform, Equitable Healthcare. You click, then it says the same thing, like, oh, affordable healthcare, no. But then there's a green button in the middle that says Medicare for All. You click on that button, and it takes you to a separate window that says that she supports Medicare for All. Now it's like, what? Are you hiding your Medicare for All endorsement? Like, are you hiding this? And I mean, a couple weeks before that supposed change to her website, she made a page on her, like, thing where she was saying, like there was an interview with her and Cal Cunningham and Trevor Fuller, and Erica Smith was saying, like, I'd support Medicare for All if it were the only choice given to me. And I'm like, or you could just support it. What? Like, I mean, it doesn't even appear that she's in favor of a public option. Like, again, it doesn't even appear that she's in favor of a public option. Back when Cal Cunningham was running in 2010, that was a position too far left for him to take. And you're not even expressing the favorability of it. You're saying affordable healthcare, improve ACA. Like Cal Cunningham, he says kind of the same thing, but I think he at one point mentioned public option. But it's like, seriously? Also, I kind of love how the Overton window kind of slipped. Back in the day, progressives were like, okay, fine, we'll compromise in, like back in 2010, they're like, oh, we'll compromise and give you a public option. But then the moderates are like, no, it's too much. And now the moderates are like, okay, we're ready for a public option now. It's like, no, you had years ago to do that. And now we have to do the one real thing. And, of course, where does that leave Trevor? Well, Trevor didn't have a website I could go to for a while, but he did appear at a lot of candidate forums and a lot of candidate stuff that I missed because I don't leave my house because why would I? I'm an introverted nerd. But in all these interviews, and I checked for the receipts, Trevor Fuller has never once backed away from Medicare for All like Erica Smith has. Trevor has been, like, on the record very clearly saying, like, Medicare for All is the only way to go. Ergo, if you're a progressive in North Carolina, Cal Cunningham, not your choice. Atul Goel, not your choice. Steve Swenson, not really your choice. Erica Smith, no. Trevor Fuller. Fuller is your choice. I've fully endorsed on my website Trevor Fuller as soon as I made it clear that he was in favor of Medicare for All. Like, yes. I would have preferred maybe a Cecil Bothwell, but Trevor Fuller is the only way to go. Fuller for Senate, and hopefully he manages to pull it off. I mean, I doubt it because Cal Cunningham's got all the money and power, and at the most, Eric Smith and him are going to go to a runoff. But Cal Cunningham is no. Trevor Fuller is yes. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video might comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report.